Hey, Dickie. Hey, Cindy. I'm sorry I can't be with you to celebrate your retirement. Frankly, when Gail reached out, it was a little hard to believe. I mean, I'm feeling a little bit like when I heard that my boyhood hero, John Havlicek, was announcing his retirement from the Celtics back in 1978, or when Walter Cronkite signed off for the last time. Hell, it's a little bit like that scene in Alexander Hamilton when, George Washington says, Alexander, I'm not running for president. And, what are we going to do? So hard to believe. It's hard to imagine the field without you sort of in your day-to-day engagement. And that's a big adjustment for everybody.
Cindy and Dickie are retiring? They can't do that. They're not any older than I am. Well, maybe they're a little older than I am.
I thought about telling a small story, and I know we all have small stories about Cindy and Dickie. We could pile up these small stories into a gigantic mountain and then build statues of Cindy and Dickie at the top. These stories are about small, potent gestures and moments that reveal how Cindy and Dickie have impacted our lives, our scholarship, our thinking, who we are as teachers and researchers and scholars.
We're back here where it all started in 1977 when we were just graduate students with you, and look what happened. Time flew by and great things happened for all of us.
And Cindy, I remember in the early 1980s, you were writing proposals for a computer lab in the humanities building to the administration at Michigan Tech. And the response was that only engineers and scientists would ever use personal computers.
In 1982 or 83, the department had no personal computers. We had only a god-awful mini-computer, a giant Tirac that filled the room and took 8-inch floppy disks. Yes, 8 inches. And we were all terrified of it. All that is, except Cindy, who was our de facto tech support, our departmental nerd. The person who with mostly good cheer held our hands, pushing us gently into the future.
So my first encounter with the Selfs was with Dickie Self, and it was in 1984 when he was the coach for the Copper Country Killer Whales swim team in Houghton, Michigan. I was 8 years old, and he taught me to do my first flip turn. I went on to have a very rewarding, perhaps not that successful, but rewarding career as a swimmer throughout my high school years, and I credit that in large part due to some of those great coaches I had early on. Little would I know that Dickie Self would continue to play a role as a coach in my life, as it were, when some 15 years later I found myself in graduate school back in my hometown at Michigan Tech.
Now, Dickie probably doesn't realize it, but he's always been sort of a role model, at least in helping me to see how to keep my cool when things weren't going as planned. Dickie was Lebowski way before the Coen brothers started writing their script. I don't think I ever saw Dickie get angry about anything. Crashed networks, cups of coffee spilled on keyboards in the lab, belligerent students learning how to use new software, belligerent faculty members learning how to use software, easily the worst. It all just sort of washed over Dickie, who at the most might roll his eyes and fix whatever messes that person had gotten themselves and maybe all of us into. And Dickie would just move on, getting stuff done.
In 1995, I went to computer camp in Houghton. Cindy, you inspired teachers and students to collaborate and communicate with computers, motivating me to develop interactive online classes. And Dickie, you taught me HTML, which started my web development avocation.
I remember thinking how great it would be if we could swim in the Nile off of the felucca, the sailboat, the Egyptian sailboat we were on. And I was totally ignoring what I thought was this, very calm ripples and current in the water alongside of us. Fortunately, that day, Dickie also swam in the Nile. And with his help, I was finally able to make it back onto the felucca because that Nile was anything but calm. Then there was the snorkeling that the four of us did off the beaches of Kauai in the Pacific with Dickie's expert guidance.
Remember that old saying that people don't necessarily remember much of what you said, but they do remember how they felt when they were with you. So just thanks for being there for so much of my career. I know that I always felt more relaxed and calmer and groovier when you were around.
But I went to the Four Seas Michigan Tech party, and Cindy was there, and she greeted me with a huge hug and said, "Oh, I can't wait to get back to work with you next year." And I was really excited, and that's when I learned that everybody in the computers and writing community hugs each other, and I'm totally down with that.
1997 also brought the conference to Hawaii. Here's Dickie with our keynote, Howard Rheingold, at the Luau reception. And here's Cindy. At CNW 98 in Gainesville, we went swimming, canoeing, and tubing at Ginny Springs, and I caught Dickie trying to tip over a canoe with Cindy, John Barber, and others in it. Here's Dickie posing for a photo with the swimmers. Cindy sharing an introspective moment with Bill Condon, and dancing with Dickie to round out a fun evening.
So one of my earliest memories with Cindy and Dickie was in 2002. I had made my way up to the UP for CWIC, and they invited a bunch of us to come up to their camp on Saturday, and I was thrilled. I thought this was going to be so much fun, and I'm going to get this opportunity to really get to know Cindy and Dickie better. I didn't know them that well. I knew Gail. She was a very early mentor of mine, so it sounded like it was just going to be this really great opportunity, and I was really excited. And I went up there thinking, okay, you just have some rules that you have to follow, like don't get too drunk, don't fall in the lake, don't get lost in the woods, and if you do get lost in the woods, don't get eaten by a bear. And if you can stick to those 4 things, then probably everything's going to go just fine. Those rules seem easy enough, right? So Cindy and Dickie were great hosts. After we spent an afternoon touring the area, we were going to head back to the camp, and Cindy and Gail were in Dickie's car, and Cindy said, "Hey, why don't you come along and ride with us?" And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to get to ride back to the camp with Cindy Selfe and Gail Haywisher in the front seat of the car. And the ride was fantastic. They were laughing and telling stories and having a great time, and I was just in the back seat listening. And I realized that for the first time ever, I was getting car sick. Really, really car sick. There's another rule here. Don't get sick in Cindy and Dickie's car. And I look up and I see that Cindy is driving like a bat out of hell. She is flying around these corners and up and down these hills. I'm in the back of the car and I'm trying to figure out what is it that I'm going to do. Am I going to say, "Hey, Cindy Selfe, I know we've just met, but could you pull your car over because I'm not feeling so great?" Scott, you cannot get sick in the back of Cindy and Dickie's car. This is the end of your career. You will never live this down. So I decided that I was just going to lay back, close my eyes, and say to myself, "Don't get sick in the back of Cindy and Dickie's car." And it worked. We made it back to the camp. I started feeling better. So to this day, when I find myself in a situation where things could go really badly and I just need to regroup a little bit, I say to myself, don't get sick in Cindy and Dickie's car. Everything is going to be just fine.
I don't know if it was the first time I read The Politics of the Interface that Charlie Moran handed us with tremendous excitement in my very first digital media seminar, which I believe was in the late 90s. Or if it was the first time I actually met you face-to-face at a conference and you instantly made me feel so comfortable and so much like I was just in the right place, thinking about the right things.
Both of you have meant so much to me as friends, but really also as role models of what the best academics can be and should be. Critical and kind, brave and vulnerable, driven and generous, and so damn cool.
And I think what they both teach us through their grace and through their kindness is just how to treat everyone as important, as valuable.
And I think that they've shown us that the best way to love what you do is to love the people who you do it for and with.
When it comes to Cindy and Dickie is how much they accomplished together and how many things they were doing at the same time. In addition to taking care of themselves and each other and so many other people in their lives, they were just so prolific in the work that they did, and they did it with such humility.
Working with both of you not only helped me to grow as a thinker and as a teacher, but you helped show me the kind of scholar and educator that I could strive to become. Someone who really and truly puts people first and figures out all the rest of it later.
We're all indebted to you for helping to make Michigan Tech such an amazing place to study and live. You taught us how to work, and more importantly, taught us how to be colleagues. What a gift to everyone.
But I think what I'm most grateful for is their efforts to involve people in the computers and writing community.
One of the things I'll always be most thankful about with Cindy and Dickie was just how they invited me to things. They brought me to Michigan Tech, they brought me to Ohio State, they brought me to computers and writing, they welcomed me, they made me feel part of the community. And they did that with a lot of people. And that was how they helped build the field and how they were such strong contributors to the field. They know how to bring people together and put them to work. They always put us to work.
And Cindy taught me how an idea like, let's start a press, can become a reality with hard work, ingenuity, and a sense of humor. I'm grateful to know both of them.
If you go to her with an idea, she'll come back to you with you should. And it's you should do all these things. Write it, edit it, build it, organize it, host, teach, share, diversify, publish, change, study, and celebrate. Her whole life has been helping people to do those things and giving them the tools, the tools to do it well.
In fall of 2001, I emailed you, Cindy, to say, hey, CNC's 20th is coming up. Why don't you do a special issue? You wrote back a day later and said, Gail and I think this is a marvelous idea. Would you like to be the guest editor? I gulped, but said sure. Because you believed in me, I believed in me. And I think my experience is the same for so many.
And one of the first things that we really remember is in attending Computers and Writing and the conferences, how both of you always welcomed us immediately as colleagues and scholars in the discipline, even when we were graduate students, but always taking the time not only to say hello, but to talk with us about our work, to answer our questions, to really make us feel like full-fledged members of the discipline right from the get-go.
They showed me that I had a place in the field beyond my graduate program, and every time I see them, I see how expertly they acknowledge everyone's contributions, senior scholar, contingent faculty, and graduate student alike.
Through their generosity, genuine care, and friendship, they've helped cultivate communities of collaboration, support, and success. They not only fuel the field, they've transformed lives.
Whenever I encounter a tough situation, I always pause and ask, WWCSD, or what would Cindy Selfe do? And I can never quite pull off exactly what Cindy or Dickie would do, of course, but I know I'm at my best as a mentor when I try.
What would Cindy do? What would Dickie do? How would these people who have so immensely shaped this field and subsequently my professional life, what would they do?
Whether she's on stage at the Democratic Party debate with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, taking a selfie with Hillary, or applauding the work of graduate students and others at our conferences, in social media, and through her support of print and digital publishing of work in our field, her breadth of knowledge and her smiling face are awe-inspiring.
I'm sitting in my office at the University of Oklahoma, and something you might notice is my open door behind me. Though you taught me literally millions of things over the years, perhaps the most important thing you taught me was generosity and mentoring. Whether it was a constantly open door or an open house for Derby de Mayo, you taught me that kindness and community are perhaps the most important thing to being a good academic.
And I remember Cindy and Dickie designing a computer lab at Michigan Tech in a very unorthodox manner. They were placing personal computers on tables in circles, not taking the recommendation of the IT folks to put them in rows. They also said that snacks and drinks were welcome in the computer lab, and dogs too.
Dickie got his students in the computer lab engaged in designing policies for the computer lab, and every snowy Sunday afternoon he got hordes of us to go out on ski and snowshoe treks with our hordes of dogs. and come back afterwards to Cindy grilling huge hunks of meat and everybody bringing side dishes and diet-destroying desserts like Cheryl Ball's amazing pound cake.
I would say, though, that you've been important to the profession, and the profession would not be the same without you. But you've been even more important to all of us who are your friends, people who love seeing you, people who have always been able to rely on you. And I know that what I wish more than almost anything is that this being a Saturday morning, I could wake up on Saturday morning, say to myself, man, I'd really like to take a walk, pick up the phone, call you, and we'd be down on Pontiac Road, taking our dogs for a long walk and talking off the week.
I was recently a visiting scholar in digital media and composition at OSU last year, and truly the best part of it was the evenings and mornings I spent with Cindy and Dickie. Watching bad TV at night, Dickie, I'm very sorry about introducing Cindy to Amish Mafia, but I think she's moved on and gotten over it. Overall, you've both been mentors, friends, and colleagues to so many of us, and I find it very difficult to imagine spaces like computers and writing without you.
So Cindy and Dickie may be retiring, and I wish you two the best. But the practices, processes, and intellectual gifts they've shared with us all will continue to do work in our field, in our institutions, and in our lives.
We lost a friend earlier this year, Charlie Moran, my great mentor. And I got to spend some time with him in those final weeks, and I had a chance to say thank you. But it really reminded me that we want to say those thank yous in happier times, right? We don't want to wait till those last days and weeks. This is a happy time because you guys are great together. You're going to travel, you're going to adventure, you're going to have so much fun. But I do want to take a moment to say thank you, if everybody else there will forgive me, because I remember back, and it's hard to believe this with this amount of gray hair, but I remember being, an unconfident graduate student trying to make my way through into the field, and you guys reached out, and you treated me like a colleague, which I wasn't, and you treated me like an equal, which I wasn't, and you also treated me like a friend, which I'd hoped to be to you.
I don't know if words could ever truly express how much you've meant to me and what an impact you've had on me as a student, as a teacher, and as a scholar.
Thank you for being such exemplary thought leaders of this discipline for so many years.
Hey, Cindy and Dickie. Congratulations on your retirement, and thanks for careers distinguished by enabling others through teaching, mentoring, and endless collaboration.
So congratulations, Cindy and Dickie.
Congratulations on your retirement, and we'll see you soon in Houghton, America.
Ohio State's grand, most all will agree. I'll skip their damn prefix, that immodest thee. The rest of the story, I'm sure you all know. Our all-stars recruited with prestige and dough, so off to Columbus our heroes embarked, where DMAC and football both get top marks. Now soon they'll retire, Lake Medora waits. We've taken them back from the scarlet and gray. The Buckeyes, we hear, are aflame with great ire. Our response, eat your heart out, Urban Meyer. Congratulations, guys. See you soon.
Cindy, Dickie, I wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your impending retirement. It's well deserved.
Stand up and walk out on me. Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. I get by with a little help from my friends. I get high with a little help from my friends. I'm gonna try with a little help.
There's a rumor afoot that you're actually leaving, retiring, abandoning us. But I don't think that's true. I think this is just an extended vacation, and we're going to hear all about it. And so in that spirit, I'm going to say, quoting Wickham in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, not goodbye, but au revoir.
Hey, Cindy and Dickie.
Have a blessed retirement.
We'll miss you.
Bye.